Hello, fellow preppers. 'Tis I, the Rumpled One. Why you don't want to survive. Now, I know that might sound weird, considering this is about prepping, and prepping is all about survival. But you see, you really don't want to survive a disaster. And let me explain why. We're going to define some terms, and then you'll see where I'm coming from. The first one is avoid. If at all possible, you want to avoid a disaster. So, for example, back in 2005, when Hurricane Katrina alert came across that, they had like a 2 or 3 day warning, just leave and then you avoid the disaster. So, step number one is always avoid. It's just like, you want to avoid confrontation. You want to do whatever you can to avoid problems. Now, if you can't avoid it, or you don't have the foresight or the warning to avoid it, you want to evade it. And basically, when you evade a disaster, is you get out of the way. So, for example, you look both ways before you cross the street. But maybe one day you forgot. And the next thing you know, you see a truck bearing down on you. So you jump out of the way. You evaded the disaster. So in the case of Hurricane Katrina, if for some reason, you didn't get the warning, but all of a sudden you look out the window and the sky's darkening and you see stuff blowing around, then maybe you leave. Okay? So step one is avoid. Step two is evade. Now, if for some strange reason you find yourself in a disaster, you want to escape from it. So, for example, if you're in a burning building, you wake up and you're engulfed by fires, you find a way out. Maybe you jump out a window, or you crawl out. You do something. You have escaped. So that's three. Number three is escape. Now, finally, if you can't avoid, and you can't evade, and you can't escape, then maybe you're going to have to survive the disaster. And so, when I say you don't want to survive a disaster, you don't want to be in a position that you have to survive a disaster. So for instance, if you're in the forest and you're surrounded by fire and it's coming your way and there's no escape, then maybe you dig a hole, you cover yourself up, and then you wait till it's over, and then if you make it out, you have survived the disaster. That would be the final four. So that's why I say you don't want to survive disaster. You want to avoid it, or evade it, or escape from it. You don't want to survive. Now, some people might say, oh, you're just splitting hairs. No, I'm not. But if you look in the dictionary, avoid, evade, and escape, you might see, depending on the dictionary, how they're similar. One dictionary might say when you evade, you're avoiding or you're escaping. When you escape, you might be evading. So sometimes they kind of blur the lines, but for me, I like to make the distinctions, okay? There's similarities and there's differences. The differences are the distinctions. So the main thing is, as a prepper, you want to be prepared, but you always want to be in a position to basically kind of see into the future, see the impending doom, You know, have your situational awareness about you and avoid it. You know, if you see a bunch of guys coming to the movie theater and they're wearing black trench coats or something, you might decide to go up, get some popcorn, and get the heck out of there. You'd be avoiding the problem. So that's where the smartness, that's where the mindset comes in when it comes to prepping. You know, and along those lines, when you think about surviving disasters, number one, in most cases, there's nothing in that backpack, your go bag's going to help you survive. What's going to help you survive is what you have up here and what you've done with these, experience. Because in most cases, the disasters that we talk about, you can't outwalk them. I've already done a video about that. Because really, what that backpack is for, your go bag, your bug out bag, it's for after the disaster is come and gone, if you think about it. The disaster's over. I mean, if the ground's shaking, we got an earthquake, there's nothing in my bag's going to help me. Really, it's nothing. You know, if there's a flood, if there's a fire, there's really nothing in my bag that's going to help me. What I have to do is somehow survive through the disaster, and that's when I can use the bag afterwards. And you see, what most people don't understand is, see, after the disaster has come and gone, now you're dealing with the aftermath. Of course you have to survive, but you have to do more than survive after the disaster. You have to sustain. And most people don't understand that distinction either. So, to the main point, you don't want to survive because that's the last resort. Because when you think about it, if you have to survive a disaster, then you missed something along the way. You made a mistake. You made a poor decision. In other words, your decisions, your choices, your actions and or inactions have put you in that spot. Now, that being said, you know, earthquake could start right now. And if the ground started shaking, I put myself in this position. Why? Because I choose to live here. We know it can happen anytime, but those are choices we make. So you see, it all gets back to you. So you have to decide what you're going to do and how you're going to prepare, because if you fail to prepare, then you're preparing to fail.